Hello students, today we will learn about constructors. Constructors are a very important part of Java. The word constructor in general signifies constructing something finite. Constructors come into play when objects are created from classes. Whenever objects are created, some initialization needs to be done for the object. The Java language provides flexibility to initialize all the data members of an object automatically whenever an object is created. This automatic initialization is done by using constructors. The main features of constructors are: a constructor is a method that has no return type, not even void. The name of a constructor is same as that of the class name in which it resides. A constructor is automatically called on object creation. You can have more than one constructor in your class as long as the argument lists are different. Having more than one constructor in a class means you have overloaded constructors. If a constructor is not defined, then the compiler provides a default constructor which takes no arguments and performs no special actions or initialization. Constructors may include parameters of various types. When the constructor is invoked using the new operator, the types must match with those data types that are specified in the constructor definition. Students, let us know more. Overloaded constructor means you have more than one constructor in a class. Such type of constructors must have different argument list. Hence, we can say that a constructor is a method which is used to initialize the data members. But unlike other methods, we do not have to make any special call to a constructor, as it is automatically called whenever a new object is created. Let us learn how to declare a constructor. Syntax: bracket in access specifier, bracket close, bracket in class name, bracket close, bracket in parameters list, bracket close, braces in program code, braces close. Students, let us understand this through an example. Class student, class name, braces in int roll number semicolon, int standard semicolon, public student parenthesis, constructor. Here students is the name of the class. Student parenthesis is the constructor. This constructor does not accept any parameters and is known as default constructor. Braces in roll number equals to 1 semicolon, standard equals to 6 semicolon, braces close, braces close. Before moving forward, let us first discuss about need for constructors. The main purpose of a constructor is to create an object of a class. It is defined with the same name as that of its class name. In the above mentioned examples, student parenthesis is the constructor. The syntax for creating a new object is bracket in class name, bracket close, bracket in object name, bracket close, equals to bracket in new, bracket close, bracket in constructor, parenthesis, bracket close, semicolon. For example, let us assume a class student with a new object S1. To create a new student object called S1, a constructor is called by the new operator. Student S1 is equal to new student, parenthesis, semicolon. The access specifier of a constructor should be defined under public section of a class so that it can be called from outside the class and its objects can be created in any function. A constructor can be defined in a non-member function. If the constructor is specified as private or protected in a class, then nobody outside the class can access it. It is used to initialize the data members and to perform other complex tasks. Time for fact file. A constructor is a code that runs when you say new on a class type. Students, let us understand this through an example. Let us create a program to demonstrate the concept of a constructor. The constructor will initialize the variables of the class. All the objects created using this constructor will automatically get the initialized values. Case of private constructor. Let us take an example of a class whose constructor is private. Class myClass, braces in int a, b, c, semicolon. Private myClass, parenthesis. Constructor defined as private. Braces in a equals to 5, semicolon. B equals to 10, semicolon. C equals to 15, semicolon. Braces close. Public static void main, parenthesis. Braces in myClass object equals to new myClass, parenthesis, semicolon. Valid declaration as constructor is private and is available to methods of the class. Braces close. Braces close. Public test class. Braces in public void check myClass, parenthesis. Braces in myClass object is equal to new myClass, parenthesis, semicolon. Invalid declaration as private constructor cannot be called here. Braces close. Braces close. In the above mentioned example, the constructor being private can be created only within the class, which means that all objects can be created within the class. All objects can be created only within member functions and cannot be created within non-member functions as shown above. Alright, let us talk about difference between constructors and functions. Constructors and functions are different from each other. Let us analyze the differences. Constructors, functions. Class name and its constructor name must be same. Function's name must be different from the class name. Constructors create and initialize new objects. Functions perform operations on existing objects. Constructors cannot be called directly, they are called implicitly when the keyword new creates an object. Thus, they are called at the time of object creation. Functions can be called directly on an object that has already been created with new. They are called when some specific task has been encountered. If a constructor is not defined in a class, compiler supplies the default constructor, that is constructor with 0 or no arguments, an empty body. This is not the case with functions. Constructors have no return type, not even void. Function should have a return type. If the function does not return any value, it should be void. Execution of at least one of the constructor is a must. All the functions defined in a class may not execute. Students, let me tell you about types of constructors. Constructors can be divided into two main categories. Default constructors, non-parameterized. Parameterized constructors. Default constructors. Default constructors are also known as non-parameterized constructors. As the name suggests, these constructors have no parameters and hence do not accept any arguments. If we do not define a constructor, Java automatically provides a default constructor for the class. It can be used to initialize all the data members of the class with 0 or null. When we define our own constructor, the default constructor is no longer used by the compiler. Example. Let us understand the working of default constructor with the help of a program. We have declared three variables named length, width, and height in the class called container. We have not created any constructor till now. While creating the object box1, we have used the constructor container parenthesis along with the new keyword. At this moment, Java itself provides a constructor with the same name as that of the class. This constructor initializes all the data members of the class. In the program output, we can see that the default constructor created by Java has initialized all the variables to a numeric value of 0. We have already discussed that the default constructor stops working once we create a similar and user-defined constructor for that class. Example. To demonstrate this concept, we have created a constructor named container in the same manner as discussed in the previous program. In the constructor, we have initialized the variables length, width and height with the values 20, 15 and 10 respectively. When we create the object box1, the constructor container parenthesis is called. It initializes all the variables for the object. In the program output, we can see that the same values have been used by the calcVolume parenthesis function to calculate the volume. Class container, braces in, float length, semicolon, float width, semicolon, float height, semicolon. Container, parenthesis. The Java compiler will not use the default constructor now as we have defined a similar constructor. Braces in, length equals to 20 semicolon, width equals to 15 semicolon, height is equal to 10 semicolon. Braces close. Void calcVolume parenthesis. Braces in, float volume, semicolon. Volume equals to length into width into height, semicolon. System.out.println bracket in double quote in dimensions of the container are colon double quote close bracket close semicolon. System.out.println bracket in double quote in length colon double quote close plus length bracket close semicolon. System.out.println bracket in double quote in width colon double quote close plus width bracket close semicolon. System.out.println bracket in double quote in height colon double quote close plus height bracket close semicolon. System.out.println bracket in double quote in volume of the container is colon double quote close plus volume bracket close semicolon. Braces close. Public static void main bracket in string args bracket close. Braces in, container box1 equals to new container parenthesis semicolon. Box1.calcVolume parenthesis semicolon. Braces close. Braces close. Students, let us know more. The default constructor provided by the compiler initializes all instance variables to their default values. It initializes integers to 0, floating point numbers to 0.0, Boolean values to false, objects to null charts, and strings to blank. Parameterized constructor. In the last example, we saw that the constructor initialized the data members for the box1 object. In practical scenarios, it is not a good programming practice since all the boxes do not have the same dimensions. In real-world programming, the program should work in a flexible manner so as to allow the user to construct objects having various dimensions. This can only be done by using parameters within the constructor. A parameterized constructor always accepts arguments when an object of the class is created. A parameterized constructor uses its arguments to initialize the data members of the class for its new object. It makes the program more flexible when applied to a real-life scenario, since the program now has the capability of creating objects with different states. To demonstrate the use of parameterized constructors, we will create a new parameterized constructor with its signature as container, bracket in float L, float W, float H, bracket close. Now this constructor has three parameters, L, W, H, that will accept three float type arguments. When the constructor is called during the creation of a new object, it will accept three float type arguments. The constructor has been designed in such a way that it will assign the values stored in the parameters L, W, and H to the variables length, width, and height respectively. It shows that whenever an object is created, the arguments will be passed to the constructor, which will then be assigned to the variables length, width, and height for that object. Later on, the object will use these values to perform certain operations. Example: let us create 3 objects of the container class with the names box1, box2, and box3. Every time while creating the object, we will pass different arguments to the container constructor. In the program output, we will see that for every object, these arguments will be assigned to the length, width, and height variables for that object. Class container. Braces in float length, semicolon, float width, semicolon, float height, semicolon. Public container, bracket in float L, float W, float H, bracket close, declares the parameterized constructor. Braces in length equals to L, semicolon, width equals to W, semicolon, height equals to H, semicolon. Braces close, void calc volume, parenthesis, braces in float volume, semicolon, volume equals to length into width into height, semicolon. System.out.println, bracket in double quote in dimensions of the container are, colon, double quote close, bracket close, semicolon. System.out.println, bracket in double quote in length, colon, double quote close, plus length, bracket close, semicolon. System.out.println, bracket in double quote in width, colon, double quote close, plus width, bracket close, semicolon. System.out.println, bracket in double quote in height, colon, double quote close, plus height, bracket close, semicolon. System.out.println, bracket in double quote in volume of the container is, colon, double quote close, plus volume, bracket close, semicolon. System.out.println, bracket in double quotes, bracket close, semicolon. Braces close. Public static void main, bracket in string args, bracket close. Braces in container box1 equals to new container, bracket in 30.6f, 22.0f, 15.8f, bracket close, semicolon. Box1 dot calc volume, parenthesis, semicolon. Container box2 equals to new container, bracket in 80f, 55f, 25f, bracket close, semicolon. Box2 calc volume, parenthesis, semicolon. Passing value to the constructor. Container box3 equals to new container, bracket in 200.5f, 150.25f, 100f, bracket close, semicolon. Box3 dot calc volume, parenthesis, semicolon. Braces close, braces close. Output. Dimensions of the container are: time for fact file. The default constructor is always a no argument constructor. Okay students, let us understand constructor overloading. The concept of constructor overloading is very similar to function overloading. The process of creating more than one constructor with the same name in a class is called constructor overloading. Just like the mandatory conditions of function overloading, the signatures of all the versions of the constructor should be different for constructor overloading. That is, they should have different number and data types or arrangement of parameters. While creating an object of the class, some arguments are passed during the constructor call. The Java compiler checks the number and data types of the arguments and calls that particular version of constructor whose number and data types of parameters match with the passed arguments. Example. Let us do a practical exercise for a better understanding about constructor overloading. Let us create a program where we will declare 4 different versions of the container parenthesis constructor. The first version has no parameters. The second version has 1 parameter. The third version has 2 parameters. The fourth version has 3 parameters. Number 1. The version should be designed in such a way that if a constructor is called with no arguments, then the default values of 20, 15 and 10 should be assigned to length, width and height variables respectively. Number 2. If only one argument is passed, that value should be assigned to the length variable, while the other variables should be assigned the default values of 15 and 10. Number 3. Similarly, if 2 arguments are passed, the values get assigned to length and width variables respectively. The height variable is initialized with the default value of 10. Number 4. If we pass 3 arguments, the values should be assigned to all the 3 variables in the same order in which they are designed. In the main method, while creating the objects box 1, box 2, box 3 and box 4, we will call all the versions of container constructor by passing different number of arguments. The Java compiler will compare the pass arguments with different versions of container parenthesis constructor and then call that particular version of the constructor where the passed arguments match with the available parameters. For example, class container, braces in float length, semicolon, float width, semicolon, float height, semicolon, public container, parenthesis, declaring constructor without parameter, braces in system.out.println, bracket in, double quote in, constructor having no parameters is called double quote close, bracket close, semicolon. Length equals to 20, semicolon. Width equals to 15, semicolon. Height is equal to 10, semicolon. Braces close. Public container, bracket in, float length, bracket close. Declaring constructor with 1 parameter. Braces in system.out.println, bracket in, double quote in, constructor having 1 parameter is called double quote close, bracket close, semicolon. Length equals to L, semicolon. Width equals to 15, semicolon. Height is equal to 10, semicolon. Braces close. Public container, bracket in, float length, comma, float width, bracket close. Declaring constructors with 2 parameters. Braces in system.out.println, bracket in, double quote in, constructor having 2 parameters is called double quote close, bracket close, semicolon. Length equals to L, semicolon. Width equals to W, semicolon. Height is equal to 10, semicolon. Braces close. Public container, bracket in, float length, comma, float width, comma, float height, bracket close. Declaring constructor with 3 parameters. Braces in system.out.println, bracket in, double quote in, constructor having 3 parameters is called double quote close, bracket close, semicolon. Length is equal to L, semicolon. Width is equal to W, semicolon. Height is equal to H, semicolon. Braces close. Void calc volume, parenthesis. Braces in float volume, semicolon. Volume equals to length into width into height, semicolon. System.out.println, bracket in, double quote in, dimensions of the container are, colon, double quote close, bracket close, semicolon. System.out.println, bracket in, double quote in, length, colon, double quote close, plus length, bracket close, semicolon. System.out.println, bracket in, double quote in, width, colon, double quote close, plus width, bracket close, semicolon. System.out.println, bracket in, double quote in, height, colon, double quote close, plus height, bracket close, semicolon. System.out.println, bracket in, double quote in, volume of the container is, colon, double quote close, plus volume, bracket close, semicolon. system.out.println bracket in double quote bracket close semicolon. Braces close. Public static void main bracket in string args bracket close. Braces in. Container box1 equals to new container parenthesis semicolon. Calling the constructor without any parameter. Box1 dot calc volume parenthesis semicolon. Container box2 equals to new container bracket in 50.6 f bracket close semicolon. Calling the constructor with one parameter. Box2 dot calc volume parenthesis semicolon. Container box3 equals to new container bracket in 102.6 f comma 40.2 f bracket close semicolon. Calling the constructor with two parameters. Box3 dot calc volume parenthesis semicolon. Container box4 equals to new container bracket in 46.6 f comma 30.0 f comma 14.5 f bracket close semicolon. Calling the constructor with three parameters. Box4 dot calc volume parenthesis semicolon. Braces close. Braces close. Output. Alright students, let us talk about copy constructor. A copy constructor is used to create another object which is a copy of the object that it takes as a parameter. However, the newly created copy is actually independent of the original object. The copied object is located at a completely different address in the memory away from the original. In simple words, a copy constructor is used to copy the values of the instance variables of an object to the instance variables of another object. To call the copy constructor, you have to pass the name of the object whose values are to be copied. Students, note the fact file. You can use a constructor to initialize the instance variables of the object being constructed. Definition. A copy constructor is a constructor with one parameter of the same type as the class. It should be designed so that the object it creates is intuitively an exact but a completely independent copy of its parameter. There are three ways to copy the values of one object into another. These are: Number 1, by a constructor. Number 2, by assigning the values of one object into another. Number 3, by clone method of object class. In this lesson, we are going to learn how to copy the values of one object into another by using the copy constructor. Example. Let us understand the concept of copy constructor with the help of the previous example. The above mentioned example creates two objects, box1 and box2. The object box1 is created using the container constructor. The second object box2 is created using the second constructor which has been declared as a copy constructor container C. This constructor takes a container object C passed as box1 as argument and passes the values of each instance variable to the object being created, box2. Students, let us understand this by programming practice. Example 7. Create a program to demonstrate the use of constructors. Create a class 1 named car. In the class, create a constructor to initialize the data members of the class. Create a function display details, parentheses that will display the value stored in the data members. In the main parentheses function, create objects of the class and call the display details parentheses functions for every object. Class car. Braces in. String manufacturer, semicolon. String model, semicolon. String year of manufacturing, semicolon. Car parentheses. Braces in. Manufacturer equal to double quote in Maruti Suzuki double quote close semicolon. Model equals to double quote in Alto K10 double quote close semicolon. Year of manufacturing equals to double quote in 2015 double quote close semicolon. Braces close. Void display details parenthesis. Braces in system.out.println bracket in double quote in name of manufacturer is colon double quote close plus manufacturer bracket close semicolon. System.out.println bracket in double quote in model of car is colon double quote close plus model bracket close semicolon. System.out.println bracket in double quote in year of manufacturing is colon double quote close plus year of manufacturing bracket close semicolon. Braces close. Public static void main bracket in string args bracket close. Braces in car C1 equals to new car parenthesis semicolon. System.out.println bracket in double quote in details of car 1 double quote close bracket close semicolon. C1 dot display details parenthesis semicolon. Car C2 equals to new car parenthesis semicolon. System.out.println bracket in double quote in details of car 2 double quote close bracket close semicolon. C2 dot display details parenthesis semicolon. Car C3 equals to new car parenthesis semicolon. System.out.println bracket in double quote in details of car 3 double quote close bracket close semicolon. C3 dot display details parenthesis semicolon. Braces close. Braces close. Output. Details of car 1. Example. Create a program to demonstrate the use of copy constructors. Create a class named as rectangle and create a constructor for the class to initialize the variables that will store the values such as length and breadth of a rectangle. Calculate the area of the rectangle. Class rectangle. Braces in int length semicolon int breadth semicolon. Rectangle bracket in int length comma int breadth bracket close. Constructor to initialize length and breadth of rectangle. Braces in length equals to L semicolon. Breadth equals to B semicolon. Braces close. Rectangle bracket in rectangle object bracket close copy constructor. Braces in system.out.println bracket in double quote in copy constructor invoked double quote close bracket close semicolon. Length is equal to object.length semicolon. Breadth is equal to object.breadth semicolon. Braces close. int area parenthesis method to calculate area of rectangle. Braces in return bracket in length into breadth bracket close semicolon. Braces close. Public static void main bracket in string args bracket close. Rectangle first rect equals to new rectangle bracket in 5, 6 bracket close semicolon. Rectangle second rect equals to new rectangle bracket in first rect bracket close semicolon. System.out.println bracket in double quote in area of first rectangle colon double quote close plus first rect dot area parenthesis bracket close semicolon. System.out.println bracket in double quote in area of second rectangle colon double quote close plus second rect dot area parenthesis bracket close semicolon. Braces close. Braces close. Output. Copy constructor invoked. Area of first rectangle 30. Area of second rectangle 30. Example. Create a class to demonstrate the use of constructor. Name the class as book. Create a parameterized constructor for the class that will accept the arguments such as name of book, name of author and price of book. Class book. Braces in string book name semicolon. String author name semicolon. int price semicolon. book, bracket and string book, comma string author, comma int price, bracket close, braces in, book name is equal to BK semicolon, author name is equal to auth semicolon, price is equal to PR semicolon, braces close, void display details parenthesis, braces in, system.out.println bracket in double quote and name of the book is colon double quote close plus book name bracket close semicolon, system.out.println bracket in double quote and name of the author is colon double quote close plus auth name bracket close semicolon, system.out.println bracket in double quote and price of the book is colon rupees double quote close plus price bracket close semicolon, braces close, public static void main bracket in string args bracket close, braces in, book BK1 equals to new book bracket in double quote IT tools 1 double quote close comma double quote in Mr. Manas Nanda double quote close comma 135 bracket close semicolon, system.out.println bracket in double quote in details of book 1 double quote close bracket close semicolon, BK1 dot display details parenthesis semicolon, book BK2 equals to new book bracket in double quote in IT tools 2 double quote close comma double quote in Mr. Dheeraj Behel double quote close comma 145 bracket close semicolon, system.out.println bracket in double quote in details of book 2 double quote close bracket close semicolon, BK2 dot display details parenthesis semicolon, book BK3 equals to new book bracket in double quote in foundation of IT double quote close comma double quote in Mr. Kabir Sharma double quote close comma 365 bracket close semicolon, system.out.println bracket in double quote in details of book 3 double quote close bracket close semicolon, BK3 dot display details parenthesis semicolon, braces close, braces close. Output